Hi 7-8 English. Here's our first digital English lesson. We're in chapter 14, the very beginning here, lesson 1, talking about jingles 22 and 23, object pronouns, indirect objects. We're on page 340 in your text. Starting with actually the idea of an indirect object. Many of you have already learned these. The jingle goes, indirecto, indirecto, indirect object. Give me that indirecto, indirecto, indirect object. An indirect object is a noun or a pronoun that receives what the direct object names. An indirect object is found between the verb transitive, and the direct object. To find the indirect object, shabop, ask to whom or for whom, shabop after the direct object, shabop. Murdering this jingle. An indirect, yeah, an indirect. Just give me that indirecto, indirect object. An indirect object. It's so much better with the melody, but I don't feel like singing it today. But some key takeaways from our jingle today is that you're asking to whom or for whom after the direct object. Because the direct object sends its action to the indirect object. Now review, when we were learning different sentence patterns, you learned pattern 1, which has one noun and one verb. That's its core parts, a noun and a verb. The noun is the subject, and the verb is the action. Then in pattern 2, you basically learned a noun, verb, noun pattern. The noun being, again, the subject, verb, the action. But this actually turned out to be a verb transitive because it sent action to another noun, which was in the back of the sentence, in the predicate. That was the direct object. Now we have what's called the pattern 3 sentence, which gets even more nouns in there. Noun, verb, noun, noun. How does that work? We've got our verb transitive, sending action to the direct object, which then sends action to the indirect object. Now, I didn't mention prepositions. Obviously, objects of the preposition are also nouns, but those are not part of the core patterns. We've never listed preposition or object of preposition in the pattern for the sentence. And that's because you can add or you can subtract those as much as you want. They're not core parts. So anytime you have a noun following a preposition like to him or for them, we don't use those as subjects, direct objects, indirect objects. They're separate. Anything inside of a parenthesis, that's why we use these, cannot be used for core parts, verbs, direct objects, none of it. Even if, the sentence, I gave a gift to him, really means the same thing as I gave him a gift. Him serves a very different function in each of those sentences, and that's what indirect objects and our new sentence pattern 3 today are all about. We learned in the jingle an indirect object, just like other objects, can be fulfilled by either nouns or pronouns. An indirect object receives what the direct object names. We talked about how the direct object sends its action to whom or for whom. That's the indirect object. So to find these, the key is that you are asking these questions. You're asking to whom or for whom, or if it's not a person, to what, for what, after you say the subject, verb, direct object. Okay, this comes next after that. So to review, again, sentence pattern 1, you just have the SNV. Pattern 2, SNVT, because we're sending action to the DO. Pattern 3, now we're sending the action to the DO, and then asking DO to whom or for whom. For example, let's just show this in some practice. The sentence is, Jim bought me a concert ticket. Not Jim bought a concert ticket for me, because that would be an object of a preposition. We have a pronoun here, me. We don't know what to do with that until we start learning the pattern 3 sentence. Let's go in order. Number 1, who bought me a concert ticket? Jim. SN. What's being said about him? He bought. Just the V for now. Jim bought what? That's how we find direct objects. He bought ticket, right? Does ticket mean the same thing as Jim? No. Why are we checking that? So that we know that this is not a linking verb situation where this is actually an adjective. That is not the case. We don't really have those yet, but it's something we want to be ready for because that will start to come. Sorry, I accidentally clicked save. Let me just wait for a moment. And if I have a DO, I have to remember to go back and change this to a VT, verb transitive, right? So now we know the beginnings of our sentence pattern. We know we have an SN, VT, DO. But we don't want to write the sentence pattern yet because we're not done. Now we ask the new question. Jim bought ticket to whom, for whom, to what, or for what? Can we answer that? Yes, me, and it's not in a prepositional phrase, so I can use it as my new indirect object because they can be nouns or pronouns. We already know that A is an article adjective. Now concert tells me what kind of ticket, right? So concert is an adjective describing ticket. So we have an SNVT IODO pattern 3. Why do we put IO before the DO in the list even though we find it after? Well, because it comes first in order, right? Check that the verb transitive is good. Check that there are no prepositional phrases or anything else we got to get. Period statement. So this is a declarative sentence. Any adverb exceptions? No. So we can just put this here. Actually, sorry. Here. It's been a while. Is the sentence in natural or inverted order? Natural. So we don't need any underlines. This is all reviewed again down here as you see. One more time. Jim bought what? Bought ticket. So it's a verb transitive. Ticket for whom? Ticket for me, indirect object. That's a good way to think about it, all right? Now, moving on to page 342. Before we learn about object pronouns, let's do a few introductory sentences together. You can turn up my speed a little if this is familiar to you. But let's look at number 1. Who gave a ride? I gave a ride. I is a pronoun, SP. What's being said about I? I gave. I gave what? Gave who? Gave ride. Gave what? Gave ride. To whom? Them. Now, I like to get these out of the way. Maybe you even like to do it earlier. See, I find all my prepositions and I stick parentheses around their objects because to depot, in middle of town. Yesterday, what does that answer? Yesterday tells me when this happened. Now, when what? I'm describing when the action took place, which means it's a predicate word. So is it in inverted order? I don't like to call this inverted, but I would call it, we have words that belong in the predicate that are up in the front. There's nothing wrong with that, but we just want to recognize yesterday is a predicate word because it's describing the verb. Do we have any adverb exceptions? No. So we can stick it right between subject and verb. SN, VT, DO, I guess I'll put IO there, pattern 3. How about number 3? During class, our teacher gave us a stern lecture about cheating on our tests. Ooh. Who gave? Teacher gave. Noun. What's being said? Gave what? Gave stern? No. Gave tests? No. Gave lecture is what we're mainly talking about. Now I see prepositions here. So we stick a parenthesis in front of every preposition, and then we decide, we ask the preposition questions. So there's one here too. Let's put our labels up. About what or about who? About the idea of cheating. On what? On tests. During what? During class. Our, we have it twice. Our tells us more about the word next to it. Tells us whose teacher. That's a question for PAs. Possessive pronoun adjectives. I probably should have done this earlier. Gave lecture for whom or to whom? Can we answer that? Yes, we can. Another pronoun playing the role of indirect object. What kind of lecture? Stern lecture. So again, gave lecture to us. Okay, you're not giving us. I was not given by the teacher. I was given a lecture. I received the lecture from the teacher. Any adverb exceptions? I don't see an adverb in the area of the verb, so we can stick the slash in the normal spot. Are there predicate words in the subject? Yes. When? During class. Our teacher is the subject. There's our double underlines. Okay. Pattern. Another pattern 3. Fit that in there however you can. I missed the declaratives on these. Sorry about that. You were probably losing your mind. I think I got those right otherwise. You can certainly look at number 2 more if you'd like. It follows the general patterns we've been discussing. Now I'd like to talk about what an object pronoun is. See, I put a little colorful chart right here. I used this for 5-6 as well. It's a good review of all the different types of pronouns, and we aren't going to really learn these. We just reviewed a little bit of these because we had the first person possessive plural pronoun, that's a lot of P's, in those sentences. But let's not worry about possessive pronouns, reflexive pronouns. Here's the possessive adjectives. So I guess really the same as these, except these can be used as pronouns by themselves. But this is the stuff we really got to understand before you graduate, okay? We've learned a lot about the subject personal pronouns. I, you, he, she, it are the singular. We, you, they are the plural. We also have persons. First person, second person, third person. Third. Then the plural, first, second, third. Notice you never changes. Use boring like that. Now we're going to deal with the pronouns that are in the object case, because we don't say, me give you a present, and I don't say, throw the ball to I. See, pronouns change if they're before or after the verb, if they're in the subject part or the predicate part. These pronouns are for the predicate part, okay? So these are for when you need to refer without using their name after the verb, okay? These are in the objective case. So there's a jingle for that. Real simple. 7 object pronouns, easy as can be. Object pronouns, me and us, him and her, it and them and you. Those are the object pronouns. Those 7, right? Those are the 7 I just listed from the chart I found on Google, right here. Me, you, him, her, it. Us, you, them. Me, you, him, her, it, us, them. I like going in this order. First through third singular and then first through third plural person. But, you know, the order doesn't matter when you list these. These are the pronouns we'll use anytime they're serving the role of direct object, indirect object, or object of the preposition. Now you see why they don't call them predicate pronouns. Might be easier to call them object pronouns because all their jobs use the word object in it, right? Even object of the preposition. Cue up the next video for part 2.